by Mr. Avirup Ghosh, Business Lead Robotics, Kempi, India. He has completed his Bachelor of Science Electronic Honors under Calcutta University from Vidyasagar College in 2010. He did his Master of Science in Electronic Sciences under West Bengal State University from APC Roy College in 2012. He worked as a project assistant under Dr. Manojit Mitra of Bengal Engineering and Science University, Howrah, Sipur for light sensors and optic electric advancements and finished as final year project of Masters in 2012. He worked as technical support executive in a large specific technic GmbH India from 2013 to 2016. His work experience include providing on-site support, electrical and mechanical troubleshooting, and commissioning in industrial earth movers, heavy construction, air filter, automobile shipyard sectors. He is now working for Kempi OA India as their business lead robotics from 2016. And currently he is the head of the robotic welding solution sales in India, along with leading the robotic application center. His major roles include analyzing customer requirements, developing customer to automation and robotic field, working on workspaces, and simulation of solutions to the actual job with a continuous communication with nationwide automation manufacturers and arm builders. His areas of interest include applied robotics, welding technologies, professional photography, photo sensors, optic fiber communication, and optic electronics. Sir, I welcome you to handle this session. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am. So we'll start with the today's presentation. Uh,
Yes, sir, you can share your screen.
yeah.
Good morning, sir. I also welcome on behalf of robotics and automation in
Thank you,
department.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very good morning, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go straight to the point. As we all see, robotics is kind of the growing market scenario right now in Indian continent and even in the South Asian regions. India is kind of one of the growing markets. So let us talk about the adaptive natures of the softwares that will be coming along with the robotic solutions. I just briefly go through the market scenarios of how it is happening, and we'll quickly jump onto the softwares. So this is not that much important, but anyhow, if you have any questions, you can write me on my email ID later on also. Just a preview of where welding is found. You will find a huge lot of engineering segments where welding is being used. These are some of the five, the major industries, and apart from that, you have some sub industries below this. But when we go to robotics, we'll see half of this is not that much covered. Like if I go to kind of a Venn diagram of how robotics is covered in these fields, but basically you will see around 70% of these industries are covered with the robotics, because when we go for a robotic process automation or kind of a automated welding process, we need a lot of path planning to be done, which is not 100% achievable in all the welding industries. So where does India stand? If I give you a brief idea of where India is standing, I think these are kind of the regular ideas of how 2020 India is standing for the heavy weldings, and the automotive segments are one of the more major sectors where robotic welding is being used. And day to day, we will be seeing more of adaptive nature of welding in these segments. So this is kind of the Venn diagram that I was talking about. Basically, there are three major processes where the arc welding is popular. Three major processes where how arc welding is done. One is the SMAW, which is really not inside the automated or the robotic welding process. The process where GMAW and GTAW is covered, these two processes are 50%, or you can say 70% covered with the automated welding. So if this is the circle of where GMAW stands, automated welding can cover around 70-80% of whatever they're doing in manual weldings also, and GTAW around 40 to 50%. But basically, we do not touch SMAW in automated or robotic welding processes. You might know the reasons already. I'll not run into the major reasons of why this Venn diagram is being drawn in this way. So why do we go for an automated process? The major 6 reasons. These are kind of the 6 thumb rules of why do we run into an automated welding process rather than a manual process. Majorly is the skill labor shortage, higher throughput, improve weld quality, lower labor cost, decrease scrap work, and employees health. So six thumb rules that we say are the major reasons why we go for an automated process. And if we talk about the defects of what happens in manual welding, these are kind of the defects that causes the manual welding, a restriction in welding processes. I'll quickly run through the issues. If I just name them, you will come to understand why they are happening. Actually, kind of first of all is the improper bead profiles. Second is the spatters, uniformity, lack of penetration or deformations, undercuts, cracks at the end and the starting of welding, productivity and porosity. These are kind of the another 10 major issues that we face in manual welding and why a person run into automated processes. So and most of these issues, if you see, most of these issues are caused by the user itself. So when a welder is welding, he is basically the culprit of all these issues. Okay. So what happens when we replace a skilled welder, even a skilled welder also, with a robot? So most of these issues can be covered up when we go for an automated process. So I'll give you 2 examples of how automation is done, and then we'll move on to why we require the intelligence in the power sources and the robots also. So first of the solutions where we do automate is basically where we call move the arc. Move the arc means where we basically move the the arc. That means the torch that is being used for welding, where it is not fixed. The job is generally fixed, and we are moving the torch. If you see these photos, you'll come to understand these are kind of track welding processes. These are kind of the circular welding processes. This is a surseam. This is kind of a orbital welding. These are kind of positional weldings where we can weld large areas with some kind of overhead positioner. These are linear cylindrical weldings for the linear joint of the cylinders, and there can be 3-axis SCADA robots or even 6-axis complicated 6-axis robots also. All these processes involves moving the arc, moving the torch while welding. And when we go to the second point is basically involving where the job is being moved and the arc is being kept fixed, the torch is being kept fixed. So these are kind of examples of where we can have different positionals for moving the job itself. And when we combine these two, it becomes kind of more axes of the movement of the job becomes much more universal, much more it has much more rotational freedom. So we can do much more complex jobs when we combine these two processes, like moving the arc also and moving the job also. But when we go for that kind of a process, if you see this is kind of a table from the Kempe's view. If you go for this kind of processes, we need intelligence in the robot also and in the power source also to understand if there is a there is a shift of axis, if there is a shift of the seam. So the power source or the robot should understand and according to that track the particular seam where it was welding. So what happens if we go through this particular triangle? I'll just briefly describe what I am trying to tell here. If you look at this triangle, the bottom of this triangle is basically manual welding. When we go to a little bit of complex mechanizations, we have mechanization level 1 where the joint preparation is generally in a linear path. So we can have tractors or circular mechanization for the automation. Then we have mechanization level 2 where we have a little bit of complexity coming in, where orbital weldings and rotational tracks are coming in. Then on the top we have the automated or the robotics welding. This includes the 6-axis robots also. Here we have more degrees of freedom, roughly speaking around 5 or 6 degrees of freedom for taking the torch towards the seam position or the actual welding position. And at the top is basically
கொடுத்துருங்க. வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க.
Hello, any question? Okay, I'll continue.
Sir, please continue, sir.
Yeah.
Please continue. Sorry.
The top of the table is the adaptive welding processes. Adaptive welding processes means that is what I was describing you, and we are actually moving towards that way where the robots will be much more independent over us. Like they'll be talking to each other. They will be having their own sensors to detect if there is a variation coming in the job, or the power source should be intelligent enough to understand if the variation is coming in the job. So how does these softwares and what are these softwares and how does these softwares affect the welding? We'll run through each and every one. The major reason why we go for from a simple setup like this, a very simple or a single axis a single robot with a table welding, to a complex job like this, the major reason is because of the complexity of the jobs. When we have very critical jobs where we are not able to reach properly, or we have to complete the job at a particular cycle time, those kind of reasons, we need these adaptive weldings where a continuous interference of a human is not advisable. A continuous interference of a human will basically increase the cycle time or maybe make the robot difficult to weld. So in this kind of situations where we have dual positioners, a positioner to positioner is also being communicated to each other. If one position has already completed, that will be shifted to other side. So this kind of complex situations can be created when there is a complexity in the job. So everything depends upon the job itself, like how the job description, how is the seam description. According to that, we will have to plan the path of the movement of the robot. So I'll just run through the conventional robot names, a few, and unconventional robot names. Then we'll move on to the software parts. These are kind of the conventional robot names, which has some standard softwares. What we will be describing, what we will be discussing about, and we have some unconventional robots which are actually not designed for welding, but they are coming up with different kind of welding processes also. So describing a robot arm, as you will all know, a robot has a 6-axis movement. The major reason being it replicates the movement of an arm, a human arm. A human arm has around 8 axes of movement, and bringing nearest to that robot, nearest to that human arm is basically the 6-axis movement. So replicating the human arm, we have a standard conventional 6-axis robot where there are 3 rotational axes and 3 the universal axes for rotation. This is kind of very standard for each and every robot right now, but there are improvements coming up. There are new axes coming up. 7-axis, 8-axis robots are also coming up these days. And there are 2 designs of robots. This is also very common, like the wire feeder placement denotes the differences of the robots. A wire feeder placed on the back of the robot is basically kind of a hollow arm robot where it has a higher degree of rotation at the 6-axis, where it can rotate a torch along the 6-axis 360 degree. And these kind of solid arm robots basically are not able to do that because the torch will hit the this 3rd axis if you rotate it 360 degree. So there are 2 designs of robots. This is also very common. Solid arm robots are used for simpler jobs, not circular jobs. Hollow arm robots are used for mostly different kind of circular jobs where the 6-axis needs to rotate 360 degree. Okay, so going down, we will be having the softwares to support us. So where does each and everything comes is basically electronics. So the electronic components of these robots are becoming much more complex day by day. As we know, all the Gordon Moore's law tells us that more transistors per year per inch is going on increasing, and that is making the the electronic circuits much more complex. The main reason being it is becoming much more user friendly. So to make it much more simpler for the user who is using, the circuitry of the robots are becoming much more complex, and in that way the power sources are also becoming much more complex, which are getting integrated to the robots, having a much larger input output tables with the robots, so that it can discuss much more points. Like previously it was only the welding current, welding voltage, when it has to switch on the arc, when it has to switch off the arc, maybe some delay times like pre-flow and post-flow. That's it, like six seven points of discussion, finished it off. But now power source and robots are discussing, when it is welding, discussing much more wider points, like what is the process that is welding, what is the feedback current and what is the feedback voltage. If there is a change in current and voltage, according to that the robot should shift away or shift towards the job. So these kind of much more detailed discussions are going on between the power source and the robot while it is welding. So going in that way, the complexity between the communication of the power source and the robots are becoming much more wide, while much more long tables are being used. And from the robot side, the robot becomes kind of a, as I have written, kind of a blind welder for us. It does not know, it does not have an eye, so it does not know where to weld. So as you all know, we have to teach a robot before we plan a path. Before we move from one point to another point, we basically have to have a clear-cut idea that, okay, I have to move the robot from the home position to that position, and the robot has to move, taking the torch from point A to point B via linear path or a circular path. That is the teaching method of on a robotic welding cell. But what happens when the path shifts? So the robot needs to have some kind of external sensors or some kind of internal sensors to detect if there is a variation. So those kind of sensors are basically divided into 4 divisions. One is wire touch sensing, through the arc seam tracking, vision guided sensors, that is kind of the, or vision circular sensors, which are kind of the laser sensors. I'll go through it one by one. And supporting these 4 sensors, we have to have intelligence in the power source also to understand if there is a variation coming up or not. So we'll start with the power source softwares, where the power source should be intelligent enough to rectify the corrections that is happening. Then we'll quickly go on to the robotic softwares. Okay. So what is happening between the the communications and the older day and the modern day communications is basically everything. All these kind of sensors which were previously external are becoming internal sensors of the power source. So the power sources are becoming much more complex internally itself. See, for example, if we have, this is kind of an example of a GMAW power source set up on an automation system. We used to have previously we used to have external sensors for detecting if there is a current variation or a voltage variation that is happening, and that has to go to some kind of a controller, and the controller used to give output to a CPU or a computer, and from the computer again, which has to give a feedback back to the the stepper motor of the automation to move away or move towards the job, or track the seam. Nowadays it is becoming much more easier. Everything is through a digital communication catalog, digital communication module, and it is being transmitted from the power source directly to the robot. The robot is understanding what is the power source getting detected, if there is a variation of the path, or if there is a variation of voltage or current, and the power source is itself detecting and giving it a feedback to the robot itself. So it is becoming much more easier for the user to set up a robotic system. Previously it was much more complex. We used to have a lot of external sensors. I will just give you the names of the sensors also at the end of this meeting. I'll just give you the idea of what are the sensors that were externally being used, and how these sensors are being used internally of the power source. And this particular advantage of the power sources has increased the the adaptability of the power sources to make it much more IoT based. So everything can be controlled from one kind of a controller. Either it can be a PC or it can be a robot pendant itself. The main reason behind this particular development was the communication techniques. So what happened previously in the days of around 1980s or 1990s, the communication between the robots and the power sources were always analog communications. Those were hardwired communications with 0 to 10 volt or 0 to 24 volt IO. Like if it is 0 volt, it means no, If it is a 24 volt, it was yes. So there was a hardwired communication. Later on, everything shifted off to the digital communications. Digital communications also had two variations. Previously, we had these kind of external cards. These were external cards where the control pin was different according to the communication protocol module. And nowadays we have M30 and M40 modules, which are basically kind of the module communication techniques. So as the complexity has increased, the electronic circuitry has increased, it has become much more simpler for us to communicate between the robot and the power source. These M30 and M40 modules are much faster. It can carry much more data between the cables. What happened to the process improvements? As we have moved from 1980s, the process has also improved. Everything like a lot of welding techniques have moved from your SMAW to GMAW processes. A lot of GMAW processes has basically improved the market scenario for automated weldings, because as we all know, SMAW is not a automated process. We cannot automate it. So as we have grown in that particular GMAW market or the MIG-MAG market, the automation has grown accordingly. Like along with that particular scenario, the four-wheeler, two-wheeler industry, the heavy engineering industry, the yellow goods industries, the shipbuildings has moved on to automated welding processes. Even the TIG weldings also, a lot of TIG welding processes has been converted with different kind of MIG processes like pulse and double pulse, where low heat input can be given in comparison to TIG welding also. Even some applications where root weldings were only being used with TIG, those can also be right now replaced with MIG weldings. So these kind of process improvements has helped us to move towards automated weldings, or like robotic weldings. Now we come to the the software parts, where the softwares of the power source is kind of intelligent enough to understand if there is a variation coming up. We'll go one by one. I'll just brief you on what we will be discussing about. There are 5 softwares that I will be discussing about. These are named as WISE functions. WISE is kind of a brand name from Kempi. These are adaptive softwares that we tell, adaptive softwares for a path planning, or kind of a path movement variation correction softwares, what we can tell. So what happens when we describe, we'll start with WISE fusion. This is basically kind of a fusion fusion technique where we control and where we correct the arc length variation that is coming up from the power source. So when a robot is welding and you have a pre-planned path from a point A to point B, and you are not you are basically teaching the robot without the arc, so you won't have an idea of if there is a variation coming up in the arc length. So when it is welding, the power source should be intelligent enough to understand if the variation is coming up, and according to that, produce more power or lesser power if the variation is coming up. If the the variation is more, it'll reduce the power. If the variation is lesser, it will decrease the power. It's vice versa. Then we have reduced gap techniques. I'll go to reduced gaps later on. We'll come back to WISE penetration. Penetration is kind of a penetration stabilizer software where the penetration level of the welding joint can be kept constant even with the variation of the stick out length also. So we all know the stick out length is basically the distance between the contact tip and the job. So it might happen in a lot of cases when the job is moving away from the contact tip, and we have kept the z axis of the robot constant. So in those cases, if we are not raking the seam or we are not teaching it properly, it might happen that in some cases we might get lesser penetration, and in some cases we will get higher penetration if the stick out length is more. So this kind of a variation can be understood by the power source, and it should be intelligent enough to correct it. Then there are 2 processes where we take a feedback via the voltage cable sensing sensor. These are known as WISE root functions, where we have from 1G to 6G all position weldings in a root root welding process with an open root gap, and we have a very special process for cold metal welding, where which is called Vice Thin Plus. This is also kind of an intelligent welding software where the power source takes a feedback from the actual arc voltage, and according to that changes the the voltage range. I'll run through these processes one by one so you understand how these play. Okay, sorry. So we'll start with Vice Fusion. Vice Fusion is basically kind of a software where the arc length correction is being done by the power source itself. What happens in robotic weldings when we plan a process path, when we plan a particular path of a welding where we have a fixture and the torch is not able to reach those kind of joints. In those cases, the arc length is continuously changing. Like in a robotic welding, the arc length is always changing. When you have a manual welder to do this process, he has his technique of keeping the torch angle constant. But what happens when a robot is being taught? You basically take a 15 stick out and you teach from one point to another point without without taking care of the angle change. Okay, so when you are doing this, basically there's an angle change and the arc length increases when you have a kind of a curved nature of the path. When it is linear, it does not have any profile change. When it is generally curved in this nature, you will have an arc length change, and that particular arc length change affects the bead appearance. So when we have this Vice Fusion switched on, this software is basically correct your arc length variation. So if there is a longer arc length, it will basically increase the current accordingly. I'll play the video just to understand how it is welding at a much faster speed. And what happens when we are basically keeping this software switched on, it affects on the cycle time of the total process. So basically when we are going for very high speed weldings for automotive segments, we can achieve around 1.2 1.3 meters per minute of speed during the welding itself. I'll just decrease the volume. It has a very high volume of welding. These are from the actual workshop, so it becomes much more easier for you to understand what happens during the actual welding processes. You can see the robot is basically continuously changing and shifting its angles. So it has welded a non-linear path, a linear path, a pipe to square joint welding. This is a pipe. And again, this is a non-linear path. Like it is a curved path. So basically different kind of paths might come up during the actual fixture welding processes in the automotive segments, or even like 4-wheelers, 2-wheeler segments, or even process automation segments. And that particular segments, the power source should be capable enough to understand there's a variation coming up, and according to that correct the arc length. Okay, going to a little bit of a different advantage of what we get from Vice Fusion. Basically, as we all know, pulse welding is used for low heat input processes, but there is a disadvantage of pulse welding. What happens when we are using pulse? The speed of the robot goes down. The main reason being the pulse welding is basically where the current is continuously changing. Say per second, it has a dual current mode. It changes from a high current to a low current. So a path traveled in a synergic welding or a normal MIG welding process is much larger than a pulse welding process. If you are welding say 1 meter continuously in a linear path, your 1 meter may be covered within say 1 minute, and your pulse welding robot will cover around 800, 700 or 800 of that particular path. So pulse welding basically covers a little bit of lesser path, but the heat input to the base material reduces because of the changing current. But this particular process can be speeded up using this add-on software itself. When we are using pulse, we will switch on this software to basically give you a corrected arc length. So what happens when the pulse welding is going on, the arc length is continuously changing because of this because of this change of current. But this change of current can be corrected enough. We will be able to produce much more short circuit transfers if we have this software switched on, and there is a percentage that can be set from the software. How much short circuit arc do we want in that particular pulsing? So that if we can set that particular short circuit transfer mode, if we can control that short circuit transfer mode, the pulse welding itself becomes faster than the normal pulse welding. I'll just not play any more videos on this Wise Fusion, but it is practically proved, and you can see from the photo also. This is basically with a pulse welding with a groove where we have I groove, and this is a pulse welding with a V groove. So we can basically do better welding. This is with Wise Fusion. Sorry, I have not mentioned it here. This is with Wise Fusion. This is without Wise Fusion. With a lesser heat input to the base material, and achieving nearly the same quality of welding. Okay. The third application of where Wise Fusion is another advantageous process is basically heavy weldings. I'll show you another example of where we are doing a heavy welding. This is basically the tooth of a arch mower. If you see this particular path, it is the tooth of the excavators. We'll be welding the root of this tooth. The root is basically inside, so the wire will go inside this path while welding. As you can see, this particular path also, there is a continuous variation of the arc length. The arc length is also not constant, because we are not able to predict where the wire is going exactly. So that particular arc length correction is again continuously done by the power source while welding, and it is being corrected continuously. Okay, going to the next intelligent software from the power source side, that is known as the Wise Penetration. Penetration is another one of the most vital sectors of discussion in welding. What happens when the stick out length changes? The stick out length is basically the distance between the contact tip and the job. It can shift during manual weldings. We know manual welder will not be able to keep his hand constant while welding from a linear long path. What happens when he has moved from 15 mm stick out to 30 to 40 mm stick out? The practicality of this particular situation is basically decrease of penetration or lack of fusion. What will happen if this is the penetration level? When you go away from the job, the penetration level comes down, and when you move much away from the job, the penetration level is nearly zero, like 1 mm of penetration happens. This can also be corrected by the power source. What happens when this particular situation happens? The current output of the power source decreases. When you are moving away from the job, as the resistance increases, the current decreases continuously. So if you have, say for example, set around 250 amps in this region, it will go to around 180, 170 in this, when you have moved away from around 30 mm, around 10 mm from the dot out path. And again, and another 10 mm shift will give you another reduction of around 30-40 amps current. And when you go on decreasing the current, the penetration or the material that is going inside the weld becomes lesser, so the penetration is lesser. But when we have this particular software switched on, this software basically detects if your current is dropping during welding. So if you have a movement of the torch like this, or if you have a movement of the job like this itself, so we can take around 25 mm of variation from the torch path. So if your torch path is around 15 mm, and if you are moving away to around 35 or 40 mm, we can take the variation. But you have to keep in mind there's another factor also in this particular path movement, that is gas. So when you move away, you need to have a higher gas input to keep the porosity also outside. Otherwise, there's a high chance that when you move away from the job, there's a high chance that you will get much more porosity in this 30 mm or 35 mm stick out length jobs. So this is also another quick adapt process where the power source quickly understands if there is a variation coming up in the arc, sorry, the stick out length, and detect accordingly. I'll just show you how it is happening. This is a continuous adaptive process. We don't change anything in the power source. We don't go on changing the current, but it detects and automatically changes the current. So we'll do from 15 to 25 here, but no change in parameter. If you see, we have started with 15, we have gone to 20, and it will go to 25 around. This is a standard MIG. This is with Wise Fusion MIG. Bead wise, you will not feel there is much difference, but when you cut and check inside, we will see the difference. It will be shown here. Yeah, if I pause here, you will come to understand. See what happens when there is a 15 mm stick out, when there is a 20 mm stick out, and when there is a 25 mm stick out. You can clearly see the penetration level has gone up. Like the penetration is lesser here. But what happens when here, sorry, what happens when we have Wise Fusion switched on? You can see the penetration level is nearly constant. So this is basically kind of a self-regulating arc process where we save on repetitive teaching of the robot. We don't continuously teach the robot to move away or move towards the job if there is a variation of the z-axis from the job. Okay. Moving to the third adaptive software, which is called the Wise Thin software. In this process, this is kind of a cold welding process where the wire that is being transferred to the material is much more colder than any other process right now available. This is basically kind of a short circuit process, and this gives a lesser heat input even with normal MIG-MAG welding with mixed gas also. So as gas plays a very vital part, you all know that argon CO2 gives a much lesser heat input to the base material. But practically speaking, when we use Wise Thin Plus also, even with CO2, we have achieved lesser heat input to the base material. All these trials are done with 0.6, 0.7 mm plates, so and 0.8 wires. I'll just quickly run through a video. You will come to understand how we have done it on the corner joints like this. This particular software is mostly used by the automotive segments where the regular reduction of the plate thicknesses is happening just because to increase the fuel efficiency of the vehicles. Okay, sorry. So this is basically kind of a, I'll come to it how it is happening. I'll quickly run through the video once. This is kind of corner joint welding on a robot. Please note, this is not a pulse welding process. This is a short arc welding process where it is a continuous current that is flowing through the for the welding. The welding speed is around 1.5 meters per minute, and we are going downhand. The total heat input is around 0.03 kilojoule per mm. And practically speaking, you can basically touch the material just after welding also. How does this happen? I'll go to the next slide. You'll come to understand. This is basically a cold metal welding process where the material that is being transferred to the base plate is in a cold state. it is not heated as even not like double pulse also, even not like pulse also. So in this particular process, there is a two arc phase process where one arc is basically kind of a short arc phase and another arc is an open arc phase. So during the short arc phase, the material is being um, is being transferred. So if you can see this particular video, this is kind of a X-ray video from the joint. So you will see how it is happening. It looks like kind of a pulse welding, but this is definitely not pulse welding. This is basically kind of a modified short arc process welding. This is the slab joint. This particular path to this particular, sorry, this particular part to this particular part. We are doing the lab joint of this process. Okay, how does this do? This is basically kind of a process where we take actual arc voltage data from the job itself. So the job is being connected via a secondary cable, not the torch, not the arc cable, but a secondary cable where from where we take the actual arc value, sorry, the arc voltage value, and according to that, when the variation is coming in the arc, the voltage can be corrected here. Unorthodox example of this particular process is basically this particular process is being used for a particular very interesting process right now that is happening in the robotic field, that is wire arc additive manufacturing, where we are building different kind of blocks using wire, using metal deposition. Blocks like this can be built up using this particular process. This is one of the most fastest process for building these blocks. We have actually given you an example. We are building blocks of around 80 passes with having a height of around 112 mm in around 47 minutes. So this is kind of one of the fastest process for doing wire arc additive manufacturing. The last intelligent process from the power source is basically the wise root process. So root welding is one of the most avoided weldings in the application of robots. What happens? Root welding is generally not done in robots, but I'll show you an application video where we will be doing a root welding using this particular process itself. The major advantage of having this process is it can weld different kind of angles, different kind of bevel angles. Uh, and we use the same technique. We basically take in the voltage variation that is coming up, the voltage variation of the arc, actual arc voltage, and according to that it changes. We'll quickly run through the video, basic video of how it is happening, and then we'll go to application video. The major advantage of this process is basically we can replace the root welding, TIG welding process using a MIG. So as I was telling you about, the TIG welding process can be replaced with this kind of MIG welding processes. So as you can see, the torch angle is continuously changing from 1G to 3G to 6G, and even overhead positions also. We have done this process, and even in overhead positions also, without any change of parameters, we can achieve uniform beams, uniform root weldings. So basically, this is again, if you can see, this is basically kind of a mixed process where it shifts from the short arc to the globular transfer, and again comes back to short arc and again the globular transfer. This is totally done from the power source itself without changing any parameters. This is the wise root, and we do not need a backing for this particular method. I'll show you a video of an application. This is a tool changer where it will track the seam first. This is a pipe to pipe joint. If you can see, it will show you the route of the pipe. It will scan the route first. This is just an example of how the robot will be intelligent enough to understand where is the route. Once it has tracked, the robot understands that the movement path. It will take the torch and it will go on welding. So for the welding part, if you see, it will start at a overhead position. It will start at a overhead position and it will go from the overhead position to the 1G position itself. So it has started viewing also. I'll fast forward it. So you'll understand the pipe is not being moved. Okay. So these are kind of, the multi-layers will be done. So these are kind of the applications where in this process also the robot is basically kind of a blind welder for the power source. It carries the torch, but the power source itself understands if the variation is coming up in the voltage and according to that change during welding. Okay. Now coming to the intelligence of the pathfinding. This is another point where we have to be a little bit particular, because shifting of a job can easily happen when we have already taught the job. What happens when we have already taught a particular path for the robot? It replicates the path each and every point, so you don't have to teach the particular path again. But what happens if the job has already shifted? So we need to sense the path before we start the welding. So there are two techniques of doing that. One is basically a offline technique where it touches the part and senses if there is a part or not before it starts the welding. So this is called as a touch sensing. Touch sensing can be done via a wire or a nozzle also. The technique is done by the robot. The robot moves towards the part and touches the job, but it is basically kind of supported by the power source. So the power source itself generates a voltage, and the voltage is fed back to the robot, and when it touches the job, it goes to zero via the earth cable. So this particular it is kind of a soft intelligence software where the robot understands, okay, there is a part and I can start from this area. Or even if it has shifted from the actual taught point, if it has been taught at A and it has moved to A+5, so it will move from A to A+5 to understand if the part has moved from that point to any other point or not. This can be done with this kind of a sensor, which is called touch sensor. This is the inbuilt feature of generally this is the inbuilt feature of the robot and the power source. The second process is basically kind of an online process, which is known as through the arc seam tracking. In this scenario, what happens while welding itself, the path is being tracked during welding. So this needs kind of a joint preparation. It has to be done on a fillet joint like this, or a butt joint where it has a face, where it can detect the two corners of the face. So in this method, the arc length is continuously changing, and that arc length change is being tracked by the power source. If you can see, when we are weaving, the arc length variation comes up. Okay, and this arc length variation gives the feedback back to the power source, as I was talking about previously. This arc length variation is being detected by the power source and fed as a offset to the robot itself. So this technique is known as through the arc seam tracking. The reason of this name is because we track the seam through the arc itself when the arc is being generated. So when the arc is being generated, if we are weaving in this particular path and if we are moving towards the path in any direction, the arc length decreases and we are moving away from the path, the arc length increases. So a decrease in the arc length basically gives the feedback to the power source that a current has increased, and the increase of arc length basically gives the feedback to the power source that the current has decreased, and this increase or decrease of the current gives the feedback back to the robot. It has to move away from the job. Say when it has increased, it should move away from the job to keep the center line, and when it has decreased, it should move towards the job to keep the center line. So with a weaving motion, we basically can track the seam while welding itself. This is known as online seam tracking. This also was previously being used mostly with some external sensors, but this is again becoming an internal feature of the power source and the robot. I'll just show you a path description of how this is happening while scanning, while weaving the root or weaving the root of a pipe. Yeah. So now, if you can see, while moving in this direction, the robot is continuously weaving, and this particular weave nature will help it to track the seam when if it is moving away or moving towards the job. So weaving is one of the most important features while we are doing through the arc seam tracking. And these are the two techniques of where the power source and the robot is being involved. What happens if there are external sensors? What happens when there are external vision sensors for the robot? So in these kind of cases, the power source is not involved in this sensor, but the sensor itself gives a feedback back to the robot if there is a shift in position, kind of lap joints or kind of trajectory path movements. This can be tracked by the laser and fed to the robot itself. Okay. Seam tracking. What does the seam tracking give you? And finally, the one of the most important features of IntelliGency or RFT softwares are the parameter controls. So as we all know, the IoT Internet of Things is becoming the next feature of all the industrial equipments. And Internet of Things means it should be controlled via a single controller. It can be a laptop, it can be a pendant, or it can be your HMI screen itself. So what happens? It is controlled when it is controlled from a laptop. We have different robot studio softwares or robot teaching softwares which are becoming offline softwares for teaching a robot for a path. So when you have different offline programs, you can have a 3D model of your part which you are going to weld, and that can be fed to the robot software. The robot can move according to that path. And what happens if you have the control over the power source also from the laptop? Then it becomes much more easier for you to plan the whole setup itself from the sitting on the laptop itself. So this is also another important software that is being given. This is actually not a software, but this is kind of an extension from the power source which can be connected to your laptop, and all the parameters can be controlled from your laptop itself. So it becomes easier for you when you go to the welding cell. You have already been prepared with the setup, so you don't have to go and again set up the power source parameters and again start the welding from the robot pendant. So basically everything becomes your one screen control. Okay. So I think this was what I was mentioning you about. What are the sensors we used to have externally, and what are the things that we have internally? I just run through it one by one. You will understand it much more better. Previously, we used to have building current measurement sensors, which are Hall sensors or current shunts. These were external sensors previously, and these shunts are becoming internal sensors of the power sources, where the current is being continuously read back by the power source. Arc length control, these are being used via the voltage sensors. These are also internal sensors of the power source, where the voltage difference due to the arc length variation is again detected by the power source itself. Distance control, the capacitor sensors. Distance means the stick out length. the distance between the contact tip and the job. This kind of sensors are also internal sensors, as I told you. Voice penetration in our case is basically kind of a capacitor sensor where it detects if there is a variation of stick out that is happening. Weld edge sensors, these are tactile sensors or the proximity sensors. These are kind of the touch sensors which I told you about. This has to be the intelligence of the power source and the robot to understand if there is a edge of the welding, or that is the starting point of the welding. Weld seam sensors, these can be different type of sensors. Weld seam, to track a weld seam, this can be like through a mechanical contact, this can be current sensors, this can be through the arc seam tracking as we saw, or it can be external sensors like vision sensors. So these three sensors are again internal intelligence of the power source and the robots to communicate between each other and understand if there is a shift of the seam. External sensors are not too discussed about. These are kind of external inputs to the robots. So these are very basic sensors. There's nothing much more intelligent enough to understand. Like, it's just a sensor which will give a feedback to the robot. That's it. Okay, these three sensors are external sensors. These are still under development of to put it inside the power source, kind of infrared sensors where it understands if the penetration has happened properly or not. Weld pool monitoring, these are again vision sensors. While welding, we can detect if there is a issue in the weld pool or not. It can be done through a vision, external vision, or a thermal imaging. And a weld quality inspection sensors, these are again external sensors. After the welding, we will generally use these kind of sensors to detect if the weld is proper or not. So as you can see, most of these sensors are becoming internal parts of the machine. So the machines are even intelligent enough to support the robot while welding. Okay. And the latest trends, you all might know all these things, but still I'll run through it. As I told you, online controls of all the parameters are becoming the next big thing that will come up. Each and everything should be controlled via a single computer or a single setup. It becomes much more easier for you to track down each and everything before you go to the welding cell. Via arc additive manufacturing, another technology that will be coming up, again requiring a lot of intelligence between the power source and the robot to communicate while welding itself. Offline programming, as I told you, offline programming is the next thing that will come up. While controlling, we will be controlling the robot movement and the parameters before going to the robotic cell itself. 7-axis robots is another development where more axes can be bought out and like brought out into the robotic arms. Complicated communications, as I discussed about previously. And artificial intelligence of the robots, that is already in line, where the robots, 2 robots or 3 robots, can communicate between each other when a job is being welded. So it becomes easier for the a particular user to understand if the job is completed. So the robots will be discussing between each other. They will be talking to each other. If a part of the job is being welded with one robot and the other part with another robot, which part is finished, which part is not finished. And it can be, if one part has to be welded with another third robot. So these can be kind of much more complexity that will come in when we use different complex jobs. The main reason behind all these things is the last point, that is basically the human interfaces are becoming less required in the robotic cells, and that is the only reason behind this whole discussion. Even how to make the power sources, how to make the robotic setups much more intelligent enough to work according to itself. Like, it does not depend on your day-to-day teaching or your teaching movements. This is what even the topic is. I think that is all from my side. Now we can quickly run through your questions. I think you can unmute your mics and please ask.
Sir, we have the questions in the chat box, sir.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Once again.
In chat box, they have posted the
Okay.
question.
So somebody has asked me some manufacturer names of reliable proximity sensors, tactile sensors, UR sensors, thermal sensors. It's difficult to name. See, there are multiple suppliers, and it depends upon the complexity of how much you want to use it. Uh, there can be sensors from SMC. There can be sensors from ABB itself. So it depends on how. Okay, he's not able to question me, but anyhow, like it depends upon how you want to sense it, how you want to measure it, how much complex weld geometry you want to measure. According to that, the sensors will come. For robot welding, different license software is used for various industries. For robot welding, the licenses of the softwares are generally inbuilt in the power source according to the job complexity. If you have different kind of geometries to be welded, it will be installed in according to that. If you have thin sheets, nobody will be ready to use a root welding software. So it is according to the job description. If you have a heavy welding process, you will not be using the thin sheet application or a kind of a cold metal transfer process. So it depends on the job. So industry wise, if you can say, automotive segments generally use the cold metal transfer or the thin sheet application processes. The valve industries use the root welding processes or kind of like without backing processes. Uh, the heavy industries like the yellow goods and the construction equipments use softwares where vice fusion or vice penetration, and they don't have reliability on the actual job that is coming to the robot. So it depends on the job at all, fully. Yeah, wire arc additive manufacturing is kind of a huge topic to discuss. We have to have a different 1 hour session on that. There's a lot of development that is going on in wire arc additive manufacturing. There's different kind of materials that are being used. We have been collaborating with a lot of companies. We have been collaborating with a lot of colleges to develop them. I'll just name some materials that we have done, starting from mild steel to stainless steel, aluminum, Inconel, Stellite. We have done gold and silver overlays also. So golds and silvers are for jewelry industries where the bangles can be made out of 3D printing, like 3D material deposition. Like 4 layers or 5 layers of a round ring can produce a gold bangle itself. So you don't have to go to a jeweler. It can be done on a welding shop itself. So it depends upon the usability. There's a lot of development going on in wire arc additive. Companies like Bombardier, companies like Tata Steel, L&T, in a lot of segments, L&T Defense. These companies are using a lot of wire arc, you don't need dies to go back to form a new a new development of a new structure. This can be used for industrial fan developments also. If, for example, a fan wing is broken, that fan wing can be built up using a wire arc additive manufacturing. Okay. Weld die is basically not related to anything related to robotics. It is kind of a uh, a software where we track all the datas. Basically, the power source that I was describing you about, the power source called A7 for robotic welding, is having an inbuilt IoT setup. So WeldEye is basically a conversion of the power sources what we have in Kempi to a IoT platform. So what happens in WeldEye, we can basically track each and every weld, each and every component you are using to weld. So it will come along with a sensor and a 3D scanner. So we can scan starting from the cylinder to your wire to your material, and once it is scanned and you have a valid pass to do that welding, so even the welder can have a kind of a barcode. So once the barcode is also scanned, everything is green, you can start the welding process. When you have welded it already, these are kind of used for tracking each and every seam even after 3-4 years also. So what happens in boiler industries, when a weld joint has already been welded and it has gone out and it has cracked and it has come back after say 4 years, 5 years, you need to understand who has welded this and what was the difficulty in the weld, or what was the issue in the welding. So if you want to track those kind of scenarios, you can basically get an idea of the weld seam itself. So if you have a ID for that weld seam, you can track down that kind of a weld seam, who has welded it, or was there any issue in the input material, input gas, who has welded, was he approved for that particular welding or not, was he a pipe welder, was he a different welder who has just been welding. So those kind of data can be seen. So it is basically kind of a data collection software. It is not only the Kempi machines that can be connected to it. Any make machines or any varieties of machines starting from MIG, MMA to TIG, any machines can be connected to WeldEye, and the data can be scanned and tracked. In welding automation, the major difficulty that we face is we do a lot more number of welding seams than manual welding. So it is much more difficult to track those kind of data. WeldEye is important for automation, but it is still on a development phase of where WeldEye will be used, because tracking each and every seam during welding, you need to have IDs for each and every seam. So in welding, the automated welding, WeldEye is not directly being used, but there's a different technique. We have seam IDs for each and every weld, and each and every seam ID is being recorded in the power sources. Nowadays, the power sources has a logbook itself. So it records when you are welding, what is your time of weld, what is your arc time, that means average current, average voltage, who has been using the power source. So you can have a user ID for the power source. So it is not a direct WeldEye what we are using. It is a different technique of what we use in automated weldings. But WeldEye is mostly kind of the base of tracking the seams.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Any more questions you can write me also.
Okay, sir.
Thank
Sure.
you, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful lecture.
Thank you, Murugan.
Very good
Thanks
time.
a lot for inviting me.
Yes, sir.